We are sponsored by Soho Bistro and Lounge.
Good morning, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Talk About It with Sam, where we discuss today's current events, life, health, wealth, and lifestyle. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content. We have so much more to come. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Talk About It with Sam. Today, I am super excited to be interviewing Nick Ferrari, who is a retired NYPD police officer and now an author. Hi, Nick. How are you?
It's Vic, and I'm doing just great, Samantha. It's fine.
I'm going to start it over. Hold on one second.
No,
Sorry.
that's fine. Roll
Are you
with
sure?
it. Yeah.
that was great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Samantha. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks. So how long were you a police officer?
So I'm born and raised in New York City. I'm a Bronx kid. I always wanted to become a police officer and later a detective. I grew up in a time period in the 70s and 80s when television and movies really dominated the landscape as far as they had really interesting content as opposed to Marvel movies. And a lot of these movies were cop movies, and a lot of them took place in New York. So as a little boy, I always saw myself running around catching the bad guy. And when I was a little boy, my mother used to take me to a movie theater, and around the block from the movie theater was the local police station. So I was more interested in the cops than Herbie the Love Bug Part 5. So I would always look in the police cars and look at the equipment, and I'd watch like how the cops walked around and how they interacted, and every little boy gravitates to that gun. And I was like, I want one of those, and I want one of those cars, and I want to be able to chase somebody. So I knew what I wanted to do by 5 years old. My parents wanted to kill me. They wanted me to go to college or learn a trade. I would have none of it. I purposely failed the electrician's exam, and my father wanted to put me through a wall.
Nice.
Yeah, well, that's how I rolled. And by 20, I took the exam. By 21, I got hired. I went through the police academy, and I had a wonderful 20-year career. I worked in a lot of different units. I worked in a DUI unit. I worked in a decoy or a plainclothes unit. I worked in the Manhattan North Narcotics Division during the middle of the crack epidemic, making buy and bust arrests. And then my last 10 years, I was a detective in the NYPD's auto crime division. So think of anything with chop shops, exporting stolen vehicles out of the country, changing vehicle identification numbers on stolen cars for resale, a lot of mafia organized crime cases. And after 20 years, it was time to get off that merry-go-round and move to Florida like all retirees. I got into writing. I've written 7 books, 5 of which are a series of behind-the-scenes look into the New York City Police Department.
Wow, that is fascinating. So can you give us like a quick summary? What is it like behind the scenes in the New York City Police Department?
Oh, it's a lot different than what I thought it would be. So, on television, I thought I'd be running around kicking ass and taking names, and it's not like that. So here I am. I grew up in the Bronx. I think I'm a tough guy. I think, I'm a Bronx kid. I grew up in the Bronx my whole life. Well, my first day out of the academy, they dropped me off in the South Bronx on a foot post by myself, abandoned buildings to my left, abandoned buildings to my right. I don't speak Spanish other than little bit remedial Spanish I took in grammar school. So I was lost. I didn't know how to listen to the radio. But over time, you start picking up the nuances, you pay attention, and you learn your craft. And then I was able to thrive in it. But I remember the first couple of weeks, it was not like I saw on television.
Yeah, I bet. What is one of the most memorable situations that you've ever been in? Whether it be like fun or like heroic?
What do you want? You want funny? You want dark? Okay, so I'm a rookie cop. This isn't one of a life changer for me, but I'll just give you an example. So I'm a rookie cop, and my sergeant picks me up and he says, you got to sit on a DOA. Now in the NYPD, sitting on a DOA means when someone dies in their home, could be natural death or unnatural death. When someone dies, the police show up, the detectives are going to ask questions, and they're going to put a cop with that dead body until the medical examiner shows up, and the medical examiner says, suspicious death, the body's going to the morgue for autopsy, or no, this person's 80 years old, they're on heart medication, we called the doctor, she wasn't in good health, call the funeral home. But until that body leaves, a police officer has to stay with that body. So it was up on Fairmont Avenue in the Bronx, and I remember here's a guy He's dead in his apartment, and he's kind of slumped over a coffee table. And a couple of, like, literally close to his hand is a handgun. So that's odd, right? And he's just laid over on the coffee table, and he looks like he's got a head injury. So the detectives come, and they start asking questions. I'm just told to sit there like a wooden Indian in a cigar store. Don't let anybody into the apartment. What it was is it actually was a homicide. Earlier in the day, that man was working on his car. He was sitting working on the door of a car, got into an argument with over his neighbor. God knows what, money, girlfriend, I don't know. The neighbor took his head and slammed his head in the car door several times, knocking him senseless. The guy comes to his senses, figures, I'm going to settle this in street court. I'm not calling the cops. He goes upstairs, grabs a pistol, and before he can make it out of the house, he dies of a brain aneurysm and falls over on the coffee table. So based on witnesses that saw him take those blows to the head between a car and the car, the door jam, the other guy was arrested. So it was like right out of the gate, I was running.
Wow. Wow, that was pretty deep.
Stuff like that used to happen all the time. You want another one? I had 2 years on the job. I was working 6 at night till 2:00 in the morning. My partner and I are driving. So in the Bronx, you got Pelham Parkway, and at the end of Pelham Parkway, on one side you have Co-op City, the other side is this massive landfill, and there's a car on fire. It's like a no man's land on this road. So we pull up. The fire department pulls up. They get out with their hoses, and it was a little car. It was a compact. I think it was a Toyota Corolla. They're putting out the fire, and we're just watching. And the fireman says, "We're going to take the plates off the car." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So they start pulling the plates off the car, and they go, "We're going to pop the trunk." I said, "Yeah, go ahead, open the trunk." They open the trunk, and there's 2 guys inside. Like, oh shit. So we wind up, and one guy's alive because he's like blinking, and they're duct taped, and they're shoved in this little trunk. Like, I didn't think you could get one body in there. Someone really packed them in tight. Pull the bodies out. One guy is somewhat alive. We take the duct tape off. Paramedics come. They can't save him. The other guy is dead. The other guy expires at the scene. But what we were able to figure out is whoever did this, they were alive when they got there because we found the shell casings. I think it was a 22. So someone put them in the trunk, drove them there, opened the trunk, fired into their heads and bodies several times, shut the trunk, and I guess to get rid of evidence, set the interior on fire. But the smoke and the heat didn't make it to the trunk. I don't know to this day what happened with that case because I was a rookie cop. Basically, I was the one that found it.
Wow. Wow. So after seeing all of those situations and being a part of like all of that kind of like stress, do you ever take that home with you? What's it like sleeping at night?
I sleep just fine. Listen, I knew what I wanted. If it would have been too overwhelming for me, and listen, we've all done things in our life. I always wanted to play the guitar. And I've tried twice to play the guitar, and twice it frustrated me that I thought I was going to have an aneurysm. I said, you know what? My mind isn't wired musically to play the guitar, so I stepped away from it. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I was wired for law enforcement. No, I don't have nightmares. I don't have PTSD. I get along just fine with my neighbors. Yes, it does affect people different ways, same as people that go into combat. Some of them come back and they're not so well, but I never took it home with me. I think to be successful in that line of work, you've got to be able to compartmentalize and say to yourself, okay, whatever situation I'm in, it's really bad and this sucks, but I can fight through this. I can get through this and move on. I mean, I remember these stories, but they don't haunt me at night.
Good. That's good. That's great. What was the idea that triggered you to write the books?
Oh, I was bored out of my mind. I retired from the NYPD. I do my 20. I moved to Florida, and then I unretire. I reinvent myself. And I get my certification down here in Florida, and I join a local police department, and it's totally different. So when you're a cop in New York for 20 years, and then you move down to Florida and join a small police department, it's like having a stroke and trying to learn everything all over again, right? So if I see you break a bottle over your girlfriend's head in a bar, I know that's assault or battery. You're going to jail. She's going to get a turban, right? She's going to go to the hospital. But in Florida, the charges are different. the body, the arrestee doesn't go to the precinct, it goes to the jail. So it's a lot different. It's learning things. Also down here in Florida, like it's so different. Like in New York, we had crime. Florida, we have alligators. So like I spent a half a day learning how to wrestle a gator. And like, and I was like, can't we just shoot these things? They're like, no, we don't want you shooting the gators. You have to carry duct tape and like sneak up on them. And I was like, I'm not doing that. If anything, push comes to shove, I'm going to shoot the gator. Like I'm not wrestling these things.
Why are you guys running around wrestling them?
I guess if you found one like in a woman's kitchen, like a YouTube video or something, they don't want you shooting it. They want you to wrestle it if animal control isn't there. So anyway, I was bored out of my mind being a cop down in Florida. It was like I went from working for the largest police department in the world investigating organized crime to an episode of Reno 911. So I said, no, Calgon, take me away. I retired and I got into writing. Friends and family said, you got all these stories. You know how to tell a story. You might as well write some books. And that's what I just started cranking out these books about my experiences and the lighter side of what happens in the New York City Police Department.
Wow, that is beautiful. Do you have any like animal stories from New York? You didn't run into any rats or raccoons you had to wrestle?
Oh, you want to hear a rat story? So my partner and I, we're in uniform. I'm a detective, and they send us down to Madison Square Garden. It's called the Reading of the Talmud. It's for the Hasidic Jewish community. Like 10,000 Hasidic Jews descend on Madison Square Garden for some kind of religious thing. So we take our break. So Madison Square Garden's on top. Beneath it is Penn Station. My partner and I go into this little coffee shop in Penn Station. We're in uniform. We're enjoying a cup of coffee. By this time, I got like 16, 17 years in. I thought I saw it all. We're sitting there having coffee, and I look up, and there's an opaque drop ceiling above us, and there's a rat about this big, and it's just going in circles. And we're just watching the rat above our head, and it's like a 10-pound rat. Like it could just fall down and hit us in the head. And my partner goes, I think it's dying. I said, yeah, it doesn't look too good, right? We don't even like call anybody. We're just watching the rat. So now we're betting. He's got 10 minutes to live. He's got 5 minutes to live. It just croaks, right? About 5 minutes after the rat dies above our heads, two Indian guys come from behind the counter. I'm not making this up, with a stepladder. One guy's got a stepladder. The other guy goes to the front of the store and pulls out the garbage. He takes the orange screw thing off it. He puts it right next to our table. Doesn't say, excuse me or anything. The other guy, it's like they had done this before. The guy goes up the ladder, takes the tile, and he rocks it to make sure the rat's dead, unhooks the tile, brings it down, tilts it. The rat shoots into the garbage. The other guy puts the top on, doesn't even change the bag, and drags it back to the front of the store. So people are putting their coffee cups inside there with a dead rat in it. So you wanted an animal story? That's a rat story.
Nice. Wow, that was amazing. Vic, where can people find your books?
So go to Amazon, go to the book section, type in my name, Vic, Ferrari like the car. You'll find all my books, including my bestseller, NYPD, Laughing in the Line of Duty. They're $10 paperback, $2.99 ebook download on Amazon. And I started my own podcast, and it's the name of this book. It's called NYPD Through the Looking Glass, and it's on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you can find podcasts.
That is awesome. I can't wait to collaborate again with you. I'm definitely going to go check out your book, and I'm going to have to take a look at your podcast. Thank
you so much. I appreciate it, Samantha.
Yeah, of course. Is there anything else you would like to share before we end our episode?
No, I'm just happy to be here. I'm a podcaster now. I love doing these interviews. It helps me promote my books. And if someone finds me interesting, chances are they're going to spend $10 and buy one of my books.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to buy one.
That was good.
Awesome. And you said you have 7 books out currently?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
All right, pick one up, thumb through it. You find some stories and go, I got to ask him about this. I'll come back anytime.
That's awesome. That sounds great.
You know what it is? Like, I got into writing the books, right? And they were selling okay. And I'm like, I'm not paying for advertising. I'm just not going to do it. So how am I going to advertise, right? And I said, I'm animated. I know I can tell a story. I'm just going to start doing these interviews. And I've slowed down a lot since now I've got my own podcast, and now I got to chase guests around. And you know how it is. So I said to myself, I'm just going to start doing these interviews. So I got a Podmatch subscription. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
It's kind of a ripoff because it's a lot of people. Do you subscribe to it or?
No, I didn't have very good luck with it. I did like a
That,
free trial.
okay, right. So it's $54 a month, and 95% of the guests or the shows are women life coaches or men that want to be leaders or want to lead the leaders of leaders. I'm like, what the fuck are they even talking about, man? Like, who has these conversations like, hey, Samantha, you want to lead? You know what I mean? It's so fucking stupid. It's like, and a lot of financial things. So what I did was I burned through in like the first month of all the law enforcement ones, friendly ones. Then I started burning through all the ones of authors. And then like after about 3 months, I was doing 5 to 10 interviews a week. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start being more choosy with these interviews. And then I started the podcast and I've gone on a couple of big ones. You know who Matt Cox is?
I don't.
Matt Cox was on the FBI and the U.S. Marshals Most Wanted list. He embezzled $25 million. He was kind of like a modern day Catch Me If You Can, and did 13 years in jail, and he got out, and he's got a podcast. And through someone else, he reached out to me and he goes, you want to come on my show? I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, this guy's got like 180,000 subscribers. I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll do it. And a couple of the videos, he's smart. He whacked up the interview and did some shorts, and a couple of the shorts. Cause I mean, I recovered Mike Tyson's stolen motorcycle. I've got stories like you wouldn't believe. So a couple of those stories got like 2 million hits. And then all these podcasters started coming out of the woodwork, hitting me up, but it's kind of slowed down. And what I do is once in a while, I go on Facebook and I look at like the podcast groups, and I look to see if you look like you were normal and you look kind of like you had your shit together, because I've been on podcasts. I got to tell you, I mean, you've had this with guests. It's like, the fuck, no one's going to see this. Like,
Yeah.
like, unless I send this to my family, who's going to fucking watch this thing? You know what I mean? That some advice I can give to you is, as you have to promote your podcast. Are you YouTube, or are you YouTube?
Both. So actually, interesting. I'm doing Spotify audio. I'm doing YouTube, and then I have a TV show that airs on Elevation television. So with your permission, this is going to air on TV.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Well, it's like, I'm not a fugitive, and we didn't talk of anything off topic. I'm not going to ruin your life, and nor am I going to ruin mine. But you got to advertise. So what I do is, for my books, but you can do this with your podcast. Go on Facebook and start joining all the podcast groups that allow you to advertise. Because some of them, like, they have these douchey rules where you can't advertise your podcast. It's like, well, why not? I got a podcast. This says podcast. So find the ones where you can advertise, join the group, and then write out a quick 2-sentence blurb about what your podcast is about with the link, and drop it in there every 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll get a little bit of traction. You don't want to spam the site, because then they'll kick you out, as I found out. But just do it like I've been thrown out of more places. So that's what you do. You advertise it to get yourself some traction.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds great. I've actually done that. And I have gotten a lot of traction, and it's been going really well. But just like you, it seems to be kind of just like the run right now is a lot of coaches, a lot of leadership, a lot of people doing like really the same exact thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So it was really, really nice to be able to like connect with you and to continue to like collaborate.
Yeah, listen, anytime. Like, listen, if you got dead space or something, just hit me up. I mean, I'm semi-retired, but yeah, just hit me up. Give me a couple of days notice. Tell me what you want to talk about. You don't have to write me a list of questions. Okay. Like, that's another pain in the ass that turns me off. Like, some hosts are like, they'll send me the fucking Declaration of Independence. And I'm like, I'm not retarded. Like, yeah, oh, just like, I knew instantly how you started the interview, where you wanted to go. You know what I mean? Like, you were like, tell me a little something about yourself. Tell me, anything with animals. because I had like 3 stories like ready to, because I know this is only like a half hour, but I had bullets to go as far as other stories about animals and all sorts of shit. You wanted to hear homicide stories, I got those. I got a guy that almost got thrown in an oven. So it just, pick your poison with me where you want to go with stories, and I can tell them.
You think it's an East Coast thing that we're just ready to communicate?
Where are you from?
Boston.
Oh, all right, cool. I was actually just up there I love Boston. We drove through it when I was a kid, and I went there 2 years ago on a trip, and I absolutely loved it. Being a Yankee fan, Boston sucks, Yankee sucks. So I was like, oh, fuck these people. But then I really like Boston. Like I really thought it was cool. And I'm fascinated. I've done so much reading about Whitey Bulger and Southie.
Right.
If you that'd be a good guest for you. If you could find one of those fucking guys that wrote books like Kevin Weeks or John Shea, or the guys that are out, not the guys that are in jail, obviously. You get one of those guys that used to run around with those guys, and then do you do shorts like on your YouTube?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. You get one of those guys, like chop up what we just talked about and throw my story out there. You will get a guy from like the Boston mob that was connected to that. Those guys, you'll never shut them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people love true crime stuff.
And then
what you do is, have you written a book?
I have a cookbook out.
So, all right, listen to me. What you do is every podcast episode, have an introduction. Like, I'll send you the link to my podcast. Every podcast, I go, hi, I'm Vic Ferrari. Welcome to NYPD Through the Looking Glass, blah, 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 blah. And then exactly what you saw me do about type in my name, Vic Ferrari, like the call, where you'll find, always mention your book at the beginning. Like, listen, I wrote a cookbook. It's really good. If you like pasta or whatever is in that cookbook, mention at the beginning of the podcast, just like 10, 15 seconds at the beginning and the end, and you will pick up sales.
Yes. That's really good advice.
Yeah, because it goes hand in hand. And then this is what you do. Start taking notes on your guests and write a book about the people you interviewed. So I had this lunatic from New York contacts me through Facebook. He's a New York cop. I couldn't shut him up, but one story after the other, right? Write a little book, write a 150-page book. The more, because it dovetails together. So through the podcast, it's free advertising.
Yes. Oh my God. Wow, that is such a good idea. Wow.
Listen, I'm not in this for my kicks. I'm in this to make money.
Yeah.
No, but if you look at my books, a couple of my books got over 600 reviews. So those are sales. So people buy the books, you build your little fan base. Build an Instagram page for your do you have an Instagram page?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so have one for your podcast, have a Facebook page for your podcast. People will find you different ways. And people will reach out to you, guests.
Oh my God. Wow. This was great. This was such a good episode. I learned so much.
Nobody taught me anything. Like, I had to learn all this shit myself, but I have a curious mind. I was a detective, so I'm pretty good at getting to the bottom of things. But if you ever got questions or something, just reach out to me.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Just tell you what, when this is ready to go, send me the link and I'll promote it on my end. Because what I do is when I do an interview, I put it on my Twitter feed, I put it on my Facebook page, I put it on my Instagram. So I'll get you some push.
Nice. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm actually
happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, just give me the heads up when it's ready.
All right, I will. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.